All right, everyone. The Merchan decision to delay Trump's sentencing until after the election is rather telling. Now, I do sense shenanigans, and other people have said the same thing. It's still a win. What this means is that Donald Trump is basically free and clear to actually engage in the election. All the other cases have been suspended or are sort of up in the air, or there are civil matters like the Jean Carroll case. That's going to be endlessly appealed. In the end, of course, I believe that Jean Carroll will lose because there is no actual evidence that's been offered other than Jean Carroll says Trump pawed me up, basically. That's pretty much the only thing that was determined by the jury as well. And they found him not guilty on any rape charges, so that case is pretty much DOA as well. The sentencing shuffle, though, continues. What's going on right now, I suspect, is funny business. I suspect that they realized that if they sentenced Trump before the election, that they wouldn't really be able to... What they want to do is throw the wall at him. They want to put him in prison. They're hoping that he doesn't win, therefore, the election. If he does win, of course, there's nothing that they can do to him. But they can't hardball him right now. And if they softball him, it would be politically inconvenient. Merchan is, if I remember correctly, an Obama appointee, liberal judge. Here's the problem. Let's say that you give Trump a fine and a suspended sentence, or something like that. Then the liberals will cry out in pain and say, well, you're treating him differently than you would treat the average felon. Okay, that's a problem. Let's say that you simply put him under house arrest. Well, then he's got his Elba moment, and that probably helps him to seek re-election. Let's say that you put him in jail, you put him in Rikers. That's not going to look good. Trump supporters would be, chomping at the bits to vote for him, would literally drag their balls through a landmine field. There is no solution, therefore, other than to say, okay, we're going to wait and see. This is basically a ruse. Do they want to put Trump in prison and take him off the streets? Abso-fucking-lutely. They would love to put Trump in prison, but they can't do that until after the election. It is shenanigans, but in a way it's helpful shenanigans. Trump, again, is pacing 3-4 points ahead of where he was in 2016, consistently, in both the battleground states and the general election. Kamala Harris is probably not going to prevail at the debate. Now, if they thought that it was a foregone conclusion that Trump would lose, they would batter him legally, put him in a jail cell right now, and just be done with him. And say, well, I mean, he can't win, he's in jail, and also he's like 10 points behind and stuff like that. If they thought that it was a foregone conclusion that Kamala Harris could pull it off, they would sentence him right now. They wouldn't have delayed sentencing. And there would be no real social alienation over that, because it would show, hey, the majority of the population is done with this Trump shit, and they want Kamala because, they're insane, and so we can do whatever we want. The fact that they're not doing what they want is very, very telling. They don't want to delay sentencing. Merchan is in open communication, I am sure, with elements of the Biden administration, at least through a third party, and has gotten his marching orders, and it's basically, look, Kamala might be able to do it, but we're not really confident about her ability to do it. Therefore, you need to delay sentencing, because if you don't delay sentencing, you're handing ammo to Trump. He can win under house arrest. This would be a national catastrophe. He could easily win if he's given a light sentence, because the liberals will begin abandoning the Democratic Party, thinking they haven't done enough. And if you throw the book at him, Trump supporters will come out in goddamn droves, and so he probably wins anyway. He could literally win from Rikers, which would be hilarious. This is, in my opinion, the most amusing outcome that we could have. Trump is put under house arrest, and then again, you get that moment where he wins the election, which he probably would if that happens, and snips off his ankle monitor and then grins at the cameras. That would be funny. But it unfortunately is not going to happen. The sentencing has been delayed until after the election. It doesn't surprise me terribly. It's basically the system hedging their bets. They realize that any possible measure they could take against Trump before the election helps him, and they don't want him to be elected. So they elect to, do it afterwards and hope for the best, basically. This does not show confidence, by the way. Their attempt at shenanigans actually shows cowardice more than anything else. They are afraid that Donald Trump will legit win. And this is another reason not to be blackpilled. If they really did have enough ballot printers, and if Kamala could be relied upon to be a coherent candidate, I mean, the bar set for her at the debate is very, very low, for example. If they really believed in these things, they would not punt the sentencing date. They would simply put him in jail. They would punish him right now. But again, there's no way to punish him that doesn't help him in the election. They're not confident. This shows a lack of confidence both in the Democratic candidate, the uniparty candidate, which is Kamala, and in their ability to actually rig the election. They realize, I think, that it will be much more difficult than it was in 2020, when Trump was, ostensibly, running well behind in virtually every poll, in virtually every swing state, and in the general election by a long sea-mile. It wasn't even close. On election day, it was something like 6.5 points or something like that. He managed to lose by a couple 100,000. But then they had the lockdowns to excuse their actions. Since then, we've had defortification. We don't have that sort of thing going on right now. It's going to be much, much more difficult for the uniparty, and I think they've realized this. They're not confident, and so they're like, look, don't give Trump anything else to bleed about. Because his supporters are quite profuse, because we know that he's winning, actually. They will shout it from the rooftops that there's persecution going on, and independent voters are going to flock to him because they're going to begin to believe the same thing. And of course, it'd be true, a true belief. From the liberal perspective, of course, it's a mythology. Even some liberal voters, I think, would become uncomfortable with the concept of a mainline presidential candidate, even if they don't like him, and most of them don't. Even if they don't like him, if he gets punished right before an election. I think that they realize that's a bad idea, and that's why they've decided to delay sentencing. It's for no other purpose. It's not because Merchant's like, well, I don't want to appear to be interfering in the election. No. That's not your goal. You got your marching orders. And you're delaying the sentencing because you know it'll help Donald Trump. And because you know that the candidate that you prefer is already behind and needs all the help that she can get. And because you realize that there is no punishment that you can give him that doesn't cause at least one voter bloc to either flee the Democratic Party, if you softball him, or to really, really get amped up and you have even higher turnout, like if you hardball him. I think that that's the reason why. That's about all. Peace out.